Welcome back to MotoringBox. I'm Sean and today I have something to admit to you. I am a closet van man. I have always coveted vans for at least the past 5 or 10 years. I've enjoyed driving them at various employers that I've worked for over the years, and I've always had one that's been the apple of my eye, and I've always wanted to own one of them. So what did I go for? Well, I actually went for a 2006 E51 Nissan Elgrand.
You're watching MotoringBox, proudly supported by Century Batteries.
The E51 was manufactured from around 2002 all the way through till 2010. And from about 2004 to 2007, it became a Series 2, 2007 onwards Series 3. This one is a Series 2. It has got some nice features in it, but it is lacking sort of modernized infotainment, if you can call it that, now that these things are so old. I also wanted it in the white pearl paint, which is what I've got here. And there also had to be one other interior feature, which we'll talk about soon. So this Elgrand cost me $10,500, and it is a 2006 model, which means it has just gone 20 years old. Now for the first 15 years, it lived in Japan, and then around 5 years ago, it was imported as a grey import to Australia. Now these things were only ever sold in Japan and a couple of other countries like Macau, Hong Kong, but most of them, probably 99% of them, were sold in Japan to Japanese customers. And there were quite a few different trim levels and options that you could get on these things. So this one is a Highway Star, but I will put up a list of other models that you could get this thing in. But there were plenty of option tick boxes that you could tick when you were ordering one of these back in the day. So this one has fully electric sliding doors on both sides, so we'll trigger the right one and have a look inside. So this particular Elgrand is an 8-seater model. You've got 2 of them in the front, you've got 3 in the middle row, but also 3 more in the back. If you're looking at this thing and you think it's huge, right? Well, bear in mind, this thing is smaller length and width than an SZ Territory. It's also smaller in both of those dimensions than the latest Toyota Camry. So it's not like you're driving around a monster that's just hideously oversized and difficult to park. It's actually smaller than both of those aforementioned cars. It's smaller than a lot of mid and large size cars, to be honest. But one thing where it isn't smaller is the height. They are around 1.9 meters tall, which puts it just over the top of my head. It makes it hard to wash up here on the top, but you know, first world problems. But yes, they make such good use of their interior space. It is honestly amazing. You have a look at this middle row. There is at least probably half a meter of legroom here in the middle. And if you have a look where we've got the seats adjusted at the moment, there is quite a bit here in the back. It is honestly super spacious. Now this interior configuration is quite interesting for an Elgrand because a lot of the time you'll see 2 captain's chairs in this location here in the middle. Sometimes they have a separate third sort of center seat piece that can slide independently. But this one has sort of a 60-40 split, which I actually quite like. And then yeah, they all have the same sort of triple seat, even though it's in 2 pieces, it can seat 3 in the back. And there are kind of 2 captain's chairs here in the front as well. But yeah, this one was interesting. At first I didn't like the 60-40 split on the seat, but it's actually quite nice. You've got leather and cloth combination. And yeah, when you want to get into the back, you simply pull this lever, slide it forward, and you've got a really large aperture to get in here. And these back seats here also fold relatively flat. You can fold this center row down flat, take the headrests off, do the same with the back, and they all join together into one relatively flat base, which you could potentially use as a bed. Now, if you did want to sleep in this Elgrand while you were traveling on a road trip, there is another feature that this particular van has that is really awesome for that, and that is the curtains. So you'll see there's curtains on the side, there's curtain on the back window as well, and 2 on these side windows here too. Now you can just move these if you want to, but these curtains are fully electric. So if you have a look up here on the top, there are controls for the left side, the center, and the right. So if we put the camera around, and I'll do the right side first, they're very quick. So these are now fully blocked out. You can also clip them shut as well if you want to. We can do the other side as well. There they go. And then we can also do the back. If I get the switch right, there we go. You can clip those together too. They're magnetized, so they should stick together. They are a little bit slow. They don't quite get there. But look, all of a sudden, you've got this really private space here, which you could sleep the night and no one's ever going to know. Better yet, there's another curtain which goes up the side here. This is not automatic, obviously, but you un-Velcro these, and you can also close this whole side here off as well. So yeah, it is a really cool option if you were traveling on the road and you didn't want a dedicated camper van and all the mess and complication that comes with it. You've got room for a fridge, which I reckon you could put right here. And then yeah, at a pinch, if you really wanted to, you could spend the night, sleep the night in this van as well. Now, I'm just going to open that door because it's getting a little bit hot in here. But speaking of temperature, this thing has another trick up its sleeve, which to be honest, blew me away. So on the interior up the front here, we have dual zone climate control, which, you know, is not too surprising on its own. But where this van differs from other ones is you've got a remote control here that's in Japanese, but it has settings for the air conditioner, which is here on the top. So if I hit auto, you'll see there is the controls here for the third zone, which is in the back here. So it's set to 24.5, the same as what I had here in the front. You can do the temperature up and down, the fan up and down, you can turn it off, or you can just hit auto, which is what I've got at the moment. So the air from that third aircon zone comes from these vents here on the top, above the second row. The third row has some vents as well. And you would think that that air must be being piped through from the front, you know, coming through here, and it's probably really hot by the time it gets here, right? But no, you would be mistaken. Where that third aircon zone air actually comes from is in the back. Would you believe it? So if you lift up this huge rear hatch and have a look, there is actually an aircon inlet here in the back, and you can just see the red air filter, red and black in behind. And then in there is a fan and an aircon evaporator. So the Freon, which is being pumped around from the aircon compressor, it goes to the evaporator in the front for the first two zones. And then it's also being piped down the back here to a fully separate evaporator for that third aircon zone. Can you believe it? I had no idea when I bought this fan that that was how it was all laid out. But you have two totally separate aircon evaporator units that is cooling the air. And as a result, even set at 24.5, which I've been running it at, this thing cools down insanely fast. And when you, on a hot day, you shut the curtains and everything, it is just, to me, the ultimate road trip vehicle. And when you think that this is 20 years old, what other cars were doing this 20 years ago? It is absolutely insane. So here you can have a look at the back of the van. Very spacious, this rear hatch as well. I can imagine when it's raining, it'd be quite useful because you've got this huge roof all of a sudden that you can lift up and keep you dry whilst you're loading your groceries or whatever it is. And I've also seen people sell a full zipped up kind of a tent fly screen unit, which you can attach to the back opening of the van. So if you were sleeping in it or camping out, you could just lift this rear hatch up, install one of those units on here, and my God, what a sweet setup you'd have. This door as well is soft close. So if you just put it down, it'll shut itself. And again, what other car was doing that in the early 2000s, you know, 2002, 2006, the years that the E51 ran, to be honest, it's crazy. So the outside of the van is in really good condition. It does have about 136,000 kilometers on the clock. Some of the wheels have a little bit of their silver coming off. This one on the front in particular is looking pretty ordinary, so I'm going to need to refinish these. But yeah, the paintwork looks amazing. Electric mirrors, foldable. They have a very convex kind of a angle on them, so they're really, really, really wide view. You get an awesome view of the road. And yeah, depending on the spec of Elgrand that you go for, they have different grills, different body kits and things like that. They also have an AWS, I believe they call it. It's a light system which actually follows you as you turn the wheel at night. So if you were to turn left, the left-hand headlight actually follows the turn and lets you sort of see around the corner a little bit. We'll jump into the front here, seeing as that's the only place we haven't sat yet. This being a Gen 2, it does have the orange illuminated dials. I think the Gen 3 had, Series 3 had white. Neither here or there, I don't really care. And yeah, as I mentioned, the Series 3 did have more modernized infotainment, but again, they're both, you know, nearly 20 years old now. So really, what's the point? You can swap these out for Android units if you want to. I'm going to take that as it comes, and we'll work out what we're going to do to modernize this a bit. So down the side here, we have our mirror controls. We can fold those. You can also open and shut the sliding doors from here as well. So if you want to open the left one, up it goes. If you want to do the right, there it goes too. Wow, that's really cooled it down in here. And yeah, you do have a little indicator here showing you what doors are open, pretty standard. And yeah, that AFS, there's also a setting here for turning that on or off for the lights to follow where you are turning. And yeah, shout out to Hubnut, Ian in the UK. He filmed a video with one of these about a year ago. And yeah, as soon as I saw that these E51s, you could get them with curtains, and really not many of them did when you're looking at these for sale. Probably 1 in 10 might have curtains in it. So it's a relatively rare option. And yeah, it's just one of those cool JDM features that what other car had them? I don't know. If you do know of one with electric curtains, let me know in the comment section below. I think they're cool. One thing I do need to rectify or add onto this car is cruise control. Ordinarily the controls will be right here. This car does not have it, which to me is a little bit strange. You know, the Elgrand is a luxury MPV, people mover, VIP van. Didn't have cruise control. Cruise control was pretty standard back in the early 2000s, so for this to not have it is a little bit weird. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of this stuff is in Japanese. It isn't too hard to figure out. There is also a button here that's really handy for showing you, yeah, the left side of the car at the front for parking, which is pretty cool. It's a bit hard to film on screen. But yeah, there is also a fold down screen here on the roof, which I also need to figure out. The DVD player only plays NTSC discs in region 0 or region 2, I think it is, which is either worldwide or Japanese. But Australia is a PAL DVD country, so unfortunately none of the DVDs we have here actually work on it. But I do have, again, an upgrade which I've got planned to totally revitalize this thing up here. Glove box, pretty standard. That is where the DVD unit lives, but again, it's not really useful in any way. And yes, we've got some powerful air vents on either side here of the cluster, and 3 more running along there. And yeah, it is quite incredible how cold the air conditioning gets. It is insane, genuinely. So one other thing we can talk about is the fact that it is rear wheel drive. I don't know if any vans of this era or newer, which were rear, I think they were all front wheel drive. And it came with the VQ35 V6, or in this case, a VQ25. There is no hood prop. Famously, the plastics which hold them in break off. So this one does not have a hood prop, so I'm being the prop at the moment. But yeah, it's not the torquiest engine in the world, but it does cruise this thing along very nicely on the highway. On hills, you do have to give it a little bit more throttle and makes a little bit more noise to keep movement happening. But yeah, we do need to fix this hood prop, give it a service. Hopefully this thing doesn't use a lot of oil. It's got the spec of oil written here on the rocker cover. So far it's been pretty good, but yeah, these engines are famous for burning oil. I actually think it's very similar to the Mitsubishi Magna. It's valve stem seals. It doesn't seem smoky, it doesn't smell bad. So yeah, fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. Worst case, I might have to give it a top up between services, which you do have to do on a lot of cars. We are spoiled with the Falcons and the Barra and the Intec engines and the single overhead cam. They are bulletproof, whereas some of these other makes and models have, yeah, engines with interesting traits, let's put it that way. So it has the 2.5 V6, it has a 5-speed automatic, which again, they're relatively robust, trouble-free units. And that's really why the E51 was on the top of my shopping list. So how about we jump in and take it for a spin? All right, so here we go in the Elgrand. Start her up. So, driving the E51 Elgrand. It is interesting. I was talking before about the size of this thing and how it's smaller than a Camry and a Territory, but it feels big. And that's the interesting thing about it. It's not, but it feels like it is. So look, it took a little bit of an adjustment. The width doesn't feel too bad, but yeah, it just feels like there's just so much space that this car is taking up. This van, I should say. I keep calling it a car. But one of the first things you notice when you drive one of these is how soft it rides. It is very luxurious, and as a result, it does have a little bit of body roll. It's honestly not too bad, but you don't want to drive one of these hard. And although I haven't driven the 3.5 litre V6 version of this, the 2.5 actually, to me, really suits it. I know that sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but yeah, it's not a car that you want to drive hard, and the 2.5 to me seems like a pretty good match to that. It is doubtful, you know, you would think the 2.5 would be a lot more economical than the 3.5, but I don't know if that's the case. I think it's going to be a little bit of a difference, but I'm not going to be holding my breath. I hope at the very least that it'll be about the same as the 4 litre SZ territory that this is going to be replacing. So already, my wife and my son, they absolutely love this thing. They just can't believe the sort of level of luxury that they are experiencing for, you know, the 10 grand purchase price. And yeah, they love sitting right back there in the third row, which is kind of ridiculous because we feel so far away from each other. But yeah, for them, it's a really cool experience. They love the curtains, being able to close them to block the sun out. And yeah, the air conditioning means they're perfectly comfortable. The amount of leg room, you know, if you are sitting in the back, you can move the second row forwards a little bit. It means you can have all the leg room you want. You know, you get to configure this thing however you want it to be, basically. And once we sort out some media on that center screen, what more could you want? So it is a little bit sunny at the moment. If we want to, we can shut both of the sides. The novelty has not worn off on those. I think it's really cool. And yeah, it is interesting to know when you buy a JDM car, an import, you sort of think about, well, where did this thing live for the first, 15 years of its life? Who owned it? Someone obviously really cared about it, because the condition this thing is in is honestly crazy. The headliner does have some markings on it, but nonetheless, it is still there. When it comes to people movers, I know there's going to be people out there saying the Toyota Alphard is the better one, and apparently they're pretty cool, but they are front-wheel drive. They are a Toyota, and they have that same Toyota 3.5 front-wheel drive drivetrain, which to me, the drivetrain's a big part of it. And I think the VQ is actually quite a nice engine. It won a ton of awards back in the day. The only major problem they have is really the oil consumption. Apparently, ones that are not serviced quite as nicely or as often can burn a bit of oil. So far, this one seems pretty good. And another thing Elgrands are famous for, unfortunately, is blowing radiators, but I think that's more of an age issue. So one of the first maintenance jobs I'll be doing will be replacing that radiator with a new one, because it is still the original unit. So a lot of Elgrands meet their maker when the radiator blows, the engine overheats, cooks it, and people don't pay to fix it. So you do see some of these in wreckers, and a lot of the times they got there because of that. So I'm going to sign off here. You will see a little bit more of this Elgrand in the next few weeks once we do a bit of maintenance on it. But overall, really cool van. A lot of people who see it are sort of blown away by the features that it has. It's quite a unique vehicle. And yeah, it's got that really stylish kind of boxy Japanese vibe to it too, which, yeah, it's an era where I think Nissan were at the end of their coolness. You know, they had all their really cool sports cars, the Skyline, the Silvias, the Elgrand, like they were building some really awesome cars in the 90s and the early 2000s. But after that, they kind of lost their way. So this is kind of near the peak of peak Nissan, I reckon. So yeah, it's an interesting one. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments about the Elgrand, do put them in the comment section below. I read them all. I really hope you enjoy my new purchase. You will see some more of it soon. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.